house. I travel all over and I'm blasted in a task. I blast with the best, I travel with the best.
If you have the season pass for Star Wars Battlefront, you probably got the Rogue One DLC last week, dropped December 6th. So I'm going to be taking a look at that in this episode. I'm also going to be discussing the future of Battlefront in a brief excerpt. First, I want to talk about this DLC. One thing that I like about Battlefront and looking back at it is the fact that this is a game that is different every single time DICE releases the DLC. Looking at this game that dropped in November of last year compared to December of this year, you can clearly see that this is an entirely different game as to what was released. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I feel like this Rogue One DLC is a DLC that is DICE's way of saying subtly that they want to go into in regards to Battlefront II, which is coming out next year, as well as trying to put a bow on what was a rocky road in their first outing in Battlefront. Now, I've made several videos, and this will be my last gaming kitchen episode on Star Wars Battlefront until Battlefront 2 comes out. Reason being is because of the fact that I have to come full circle with this game. After playing the Rogue One Scarif DLC, I have to say I'm really satisfied with the direction in which they went with this game. Another reason why is because I'm adding on to the fact that this is a game that is now a fully fleshed out video game as opposed to what it was in November. Now, we are a year and a month over Battlefront to now get a full-fledged, fair assessment of this game. This game is a game of hit and misses. There's no denying that. When it came out, there was a backlash against the season pass. There was a backlash against the DLC. There was a backlash against the bare bone game that was released to the public. This was a game that was released with very little planets, very few characters, only about 6 heroes, I believe, and that was it. You have to wait for the next turnaround. DICE has a history of this. This is a history of where you have the first outing of a game on a different platform, and it receives so reviews, receives the heat, and then DICE comes out again and they just pack the punch. Battlefield 4, Battlefield Hardline. Now, these were games that I liked, me personally, but when it came out, they weren't well received because they were either glitchy, they were either bare bone, they were either too high in the season price, and they managed to clean up what they did wrong with that. Titanfall is a prime example. People love Titanfall too. Whatever Titanfall fell short of, they made sure to replicate and make better in their next installation or installment. The problem that we've seen with Battlefront is the fact that it lacked story mode, a campaign of such to get players immersed into the game, not enough content to keep people wanting to go on and continue to play it. There were times where there were down times where the game just fell dead and fell flat. Certain times when people didn't go into it. I have come full circle to this game. In my earlier videos, I said time and time again that this was a Star Wars game that didn't need a single player, and I found out I was wrong. I said that, that it was a good enough game when it came out. I was wrong there. I started to see DICE listen to the community and start to make changes within Battlefront, the first one, that made me step back, give it a fair assessment. With giving it a fair assessment, I can't really beat them over the head anymore, because they made the effort that was there. It's not like they just kept pushing forward and they didn't listen to the fans, they didn't listen to the community, they didn't listen to the Reddit forums or anything like that. This was a community and a developing company that actually went out and said, okay, well, we're going to listen to you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. That's not to say that they're perfect. They've made flaws along the way. They've made patches that I didn't agree with or anything like that, but I can't sit up here and bash them for things in which they've actually made strides for. And one thing is, as a human being, in psychology, is that if you want to judge what the future will bring, you have to judge predictable measures that's done in the past. DICE is very good at redeeming themselves. If you give them the time, if you give them the patience, they'll make one heck of a game. That's what's found in this DLC. If you really pay attention to and read between the lines in this DLC, you start to see the fact that this is a DLC that promises a good future. Aside from the news that's just coming out with what they're going to do with Battlefront II, this is a game that has 2 new DLC characters, Orson Krennic, Jyn Erso, 2 of your main characters from the new Star Wars film, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And they have their own attributes, their own characteristics and everything in a new Scarif DLC. Now, the Scarif DLC takes place in space. You have 3 levels. You have 3 modes. You have to get through the shield gate. You have to go into a distraction and blow up one of the cargo ships, and then you have to actually steal the data plans and escape with the U-wing. This is a very beautiful addition. Graphically, I don't have to say anything about it. If you know DICE, you know DICE provides the goods, especially in the next-gen console. Gameplay-wise, they've made it more solid. There's still glitches. There's still things such as that. I mean, as long as you have a game, you're going to have exploits. You're going to have those types of things. But overall, it's a good experience. I think, other than the Jakku DLC last year, which was released for The Force Awakens, this is one that's actually a little bit more hype added to it. I mean, a side note, I feel excited about this Star Wars film. You know, mark my words, this is going to be an awesome film. And people know it. I feel it. The hype is real. And the hype is with this game mode, and the hype is with this DLC as well. I think this is a real good one. The attention to detail is very well. You know, I made that assessment in my review stream about it. What does this mean for the future of Battlefront? Well, if you take a look at the VR mission, that is as close to a single player mode that you're going to get for the current Battlefront. Okay? And it was done so beautifully and done so immersive. And you got to see glimpses and hints of it in your missions, in your mission modes and stuff with the cutscenes and everything. And you imagine what could have been. What could have been if DICE had more time. And now you get to see that with the VR mission. Now, of course, you have to have the VR headset and all that type of stuff, but I got to see video of this thing via your gaming outlets. And the thing is beautiful. Now, DICE didn't make it per se, but it's still part of the Battlefront thing. You have the blueprint. You know, I'm not going to give away how it intervenes or comes into the play of Rogue One, but it does so fluidly. And it does so very well where it doesn't interrupt the canon, it doesn't interrupt the timeline, but it helps it. And I think moving forward, this is the way DICE is going to program their stuff. This is the way DICE is going to create a Battlefront that people are going to enjoy and going to love. How it's going to coincide with the new Star Wars films, maybe the prequels, maybe the sequels, maybe the original trilogy, I don't know. I don't have the answers for that. But what I can say is that this is a direction in which DICE is heading into, which has a bright future. You know, we're going to go into this new year with a new Star Wars game with a divided community. people who opposed season pass when it was $59.99. I think it was $59 or $50. I couldn't understand. Either way, it was still expensive. And you're going to have a divided community that lost its trust. And I think that has a huge impact on DICE coming out saying pretty much, hey, look, guys, we're serious. We're going to have a single player mode. We're going to have a campaign. We're going to have that in next year's game. Be sure of it. I think that we can expand this game. I think we can make it bigger. I think we can make it bigger than Battlefront. I think now we've learned from our mistakes. Unfortunately, it's a $59.99 plus tax mistake, but they've learned from their mistakes. And as you've seen in later DLCs, they started bringing in more cutscenes, more immersions, starting to show, what they can do if they have the time. Now, I'm not a spokesperson for any game. If you've seen my episodes, I don't really get paid by anybody. I don't get sponsored. I don't get shipped out and play for people or anything like that. I just tell things like it is. I tell things how I see it. This game is going places. This is not the Battlefront that we grew up with. This is not the Battlefront we played on Xbox or PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3. I get the eras mixed up all the time, but nevertheless, this is a new era. And this is a train that is moving steadily and moving fast. And you either get on it or you get left behind. This is the gaming world that we live in now, where you have to get season passes. You may feel a little stiffed. You may feel a little stifled by these gaming companies that are going to charge you an absorbent amount of money. But I feel like the gamers can meet the gaming companies halfway if they just, get the core product good. And I've said that in other game modes, I've said that in other game episodes, and I've said that in other streams, where it's like, if you can provide DLC that helps the story and not be the story, you're going to have a loyal customer, you're going to have a loyal fan base, and you're not going to have that problem anymore. Me personally, this Battlefront is a game that I'm starting to like again, mainly because of Rogue One, mainly because of the Death Star, mainly because of Bespin. I started to see the changes that they were doing in this game with Bespin. Started to see the additions and everything. And this isn't done yet. I know they still have a little bit more to do with skirmish mode, which is an offline mode. They have a little bit more to do with those things as well. But in the time being, this is an enjoyable ride. I feel like the hype of Rogue One and this DLC that finally contributes to a bigger picture is something that makes me go back to this game and play it. I actually enjoy playing this game. I actually enjoy playing it again. Hearing the Star Wars music, hearing everything. I think that's what it's all about, at the end of the day. I think fans just want their money's worth. Fans want every pepperoni on that pizza when they get it. And when they don't, they're very outspoken, especially Star Wars fans. Star Wars fans are very, very, very nitpicky when it comes to things, and rightfully so. They love their material. They love the stuff. And if anything's out of place or anything doesn't feel right, you're going to hear it. I think that's where we are at now with this game. I think that Star Wars Battlefront, looking back retroactively, cannot be judged on what it was in November, but it also has to be judged on what it was in November, what it was in January, what it was in March, June, July, September, and now ultimately December with its final DLC release. This game still has flaws in it. Battlefront needs, from space to ground type of combat. We're in the era of next gen consoles where this is the current gen. We have the engines, we have the technology to do it. It should happen. I think DICE has sat back for this time, and they've received their grades, and they're saying, okay, this is what we're going to get. Battlefield 1 is a great game because of how much that comes with it. And it doesn't matter how big the game is per se, how much you got to it. If what you're adding to it makes it bigger and doesn't make it big, that's where the solution comes in at. A lot of people who play Battlefield 1 will tell you, if the next Battlefront comes out just like that, that's fine. We'll take it. Looking at this as a big whole, this Battlefront covers basically pre-Star Wars A New Hope, Episode 4 A New Hope, and post-Episode 6 Return of the Jedi. That's a lot of time, if you think about it. It covers Rogue One, and it goes all the way from Rogue One to A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back, and the levels, and the scenarios, and the missions, and the bases. That would have been an amazing campaign to just ride through that from a different era and a different point of view. I guess it had a lot to do with copyrights, disclosures, and everything. I feel like this next one is going to embark on a bigger universe. Star Wars is not just limited to its movies anymore. Star Wars is limited to nothing. Comic books, novels, TV shows, animated shows, Legos, you name it. Everything's canon. And if it's not, wait, it probably will be. There's a lot to do in this universe. It would be foolish to not take advantage of that. With that being said, the bar is set high. As long as you're making a Star Wars game, the bar will always be set high. And there's expectations. And I think DICE didn't really grasp that. I don't think they really grasped the fact that there's a lot of weight that comes with this, a lot of pressure. People are not just going to go out and just buy something and just be, oh, it's got Star Wars on it, let me go get it. Because eventually customers are going to wake up. And when they wake up, that's when you're going to have the reactions that you have. Now, to be fair, like I said before, and I'll say it again, I've come to terms with this game. I like it. Does it have its flaws? Yeah. What game doesn't? But the one thing that keeps me coming back to it is the fact that DICE is willing to listen to the fan base. As long as you got a fan base that has that type of gaming company, as long as you have a gaming company that has that type of fan base and they can listen to one another and feedback and not listen to just everything, but listen to the things that make sense and can get the direction flowing, you'll be good.